here. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
I will tell you, if you go ahead with this project, it's a contract being awarded that is on the agenda tonight for Public Works. You're still looking at 220,000.
Okay, so
You are.
there, there's one, yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, so there's one concern, but everyone else I think is pretty good here. Okay, then there's a motion, a second, and it did pass. So we are on to page 50, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Page 50, and this is where, as I alluded to earlier, the deficit for the Water and Sewer Capital Projects Fund comes in. As you notice, we have 20 projects listed here for 4.5 million, and based upon the current pro forma cash flows and where we set revenues a couple years ago with assumed water rates, we're scheduled to have 2.15 in funding for this next year, assuming the same methodology, which would leave just under $2.4 million in unfunded. So that's where I said there's pretty much two options. One, you find $2.4 million worth of these 20 projects to move, or you take it out of the $8 million you have in the bank and pay for them this year.
okay, any questions, comments on these projects? I'm not going through each one. Alderman Cadella?
Edgebrook water main. So this year is engineering, and in a future year, which is next, the year after, is the installation. But John, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been trying to kind of hold off on this till we know what's going on with a pretty good sized unfunded project that this would be included in, right?
Correct. We actually pushed water main replacement off for this upcoming year because of that. And I believe that if that was not the one, I believe it's another one. Oakwood, Brad's telling me. So yes, we are kind of pushing off some water main projects until we have a definitive direction to go with that regional study.
So doing engineering now, should you decide to defer the actual work for another year, isn't going to be a problem? What's an inappropriate gap between engineering and construction? 1 year, 2 years, 6 months? Yeah, how long is too long in between engineering and build?
I wouldn't, I wouldn't go more than a year, Yeah, I mean, you can stretch it out a little bit longer if you care to. Materials change, things change, conditions change. You want to make sure that you're prepped as well as can.
Okay, well, John Kramer made what I thought was a solid decision in pushing this off a year. I don't know how much longer it can be pushed off, but I think it's also a solid decision to try to do this Main and Oakwoods at the same time we do those road reconstructions and swale reestablishments, which none of that is funded. So I'm a little concerned about approving this engineering if it's only good for a year. If we get further into this book and we don't find a place to fund the other project. How long can you limp along on that water main, John?
Actually, that water main, it's not directly under the road. So there may be, I know we've been looking at doing some swales and doing some different things out there. That's not to say that we have to start engineering this May 1st. Doesn't mean we can't start engineering it, October of 2011 and let the project right away the previous year. I know that doesn't answer all your questions, but at least that gives you a little idea, at least on my mindset for how this is going.
Mr. Kramer, if you had to pick one of these projects to push off to the following year, is there one that comes to mind right away, or are they all of equally important? I'm not a specialist in this area, so I gotta at least ask the question.
Do I have any alternatives to choose from, or are you making me pick on the entire?
Of the list, the 2012 list, is there something? Which one?
He's not on the right page.
Okay. Oh, page 50. What's so funny? Sure, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give you one to suggest. The I&I study. Now that we've done a section of the town, I think we only found like 2 illegal hookups, and then we found that some of the manholes need to be repaired, whatever. Do we really need to do a study at this point? Is it cost effective? Won't we find the same results throughout the rest of the town?
Did you rehearse?
I didn't hear. What did you
He
say?
said yes.
Basically, currently our I&I program is this. We had a pilot study done in the Forest View area. We completed that. We did find some result that we kind of knew we were going to find, that the infiltration was not coming from that area. That pipe was relatively new. It was relatively tight. With that being said, we're currently working on flow monitoring throughout the study. The mayor's question is, can we assume throughout the rest of the city the same information that we found in the small pilot study we did? I'm going to say by and large, no. The systems are quite different. Ward 4, for example, that area for the most part is not as tight. And same with Ward 3, they do not have the same characteristics that that area does near the creek. It's not as new. They have hammer taps on a lot of their sanitary sewers. I think we're going to find that there's a fair amount of infiltration in those areas, and I would like to continue with that project.
If I might add, you're limited at your treatment plant and how much the capacity at your plant. And what you want to do is make sure you minimize your I&I, because if you have too much inflow and infiltration coming into your plant that you are treating and you are not getting reimbursed from through your water and sewer rates, you are treating and they're chewing up your capacity, and your design would need to be greater. So it's a huge cost-effective measure that you need to implement to make sure that you're staying on top of it, so that you're not paying to treat water that's just groundwater or illegal hookups or yard drains, et cetera.
So John, you still didn't answer a question.
I'm waiting. Mr. Kramer?
All right. The only recommendation I can make is page 58, Project WTR08, Addison Road Water Main Replacement. Originally, when we brought this to the council, we had thought about doing 1,000 feet. That project has increased from 1,000 to 3,000 feet because of the cost. Excuse me. In doing that project, it behooved us to correct some of the bottlenecks. We brought the engineering firm that's doing the work to you back in October. We planned on getting this project all done in a relatively short amount of time in the pavement on Addison Road. That project has not panned out as we had thought. It does not look we're going to be able to get that project done in its entirety in 1 year. It looks like we're going to have to spell that out for a period of time into a 2-year project. So I think we could break this project up into 2 years. Right now, I don't know what the dollar figures will be, how it will shake out, if it will shake out as 900, break out $1 million, 500,000, 500,000. But right now, that could be a possible way that we could spell some of next year's cost, at least by approximately $500,000.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments on this before we essentially approve it as is, pending if we're going to tweak that project? Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Did we not just have them engineer that whole entire water main? Did we not just complete the engineering on it?
Correct, we did. And I will be giving you an update in the next couple of weeks. I have a meeting tomorrow with the Forest Preserve District in reference to this, in trying to get a portion of land in order for us to put our water main in the forest preserve right away to complete that portion. Right now, the county, it does not look like it's a viable source to put it under the pavement. They're not going to allow us to do that. The area to the other side does not look like it's going to be very easy for the city to place the water main in that current location. So right now, it would be best if we could do the crossings in a majority of the north end of the project now and work on the south the second year once the paving has already been complete. The problem being that the county is planning to repave Addison Road starting in July. And we need to be out of there working if we want to get our water main in. And right now, it does not look like we're going to be able to get approval and 3,000 feet of water main in before the county starts. So that's why the project may have to be broken up. I'll bring this all back to you at a later date. Right now, this information has just come to me in the last couple days. Staff's just been working on it now. We had originally envisioned that this would be a relatively turnkey project. Unfortunately, it's not looking that way.
After they resurface Addison Road, and then the next year we go in, we don't have to go underneath the road, is that correct? We're not going to disturb the work they did?
Absolutely, that road will not be touched. If we do anything in the road, it'll be crossings, and we'll get that done this year prior to July. That's our goal.
Okay, good. Okay, is there a motion on this section for the water and sewer expenses?
I made a motion.
There's a motion, is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, motion carries,
He
but
opposed.
who opposed?
Brad.
Brad opposed. Why did you oppose?
Didn't know I had a full share. Just for clarification, so seeing that you approved that amount pending any modifications to Addison Road, the intent then is to take it out of the reserves in the operating, the water and sewer fund?
Out of the 8
itself?
million?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, if you got to do these things, you got to do them, and I believe that's why it's there.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure that
yeah.
was the
Yeah,
intent, the understanding, so.
I mean, that's why we save it up, right? To go towards things that we really need to do.
Okay.
Okay. What's the next section?
The next section is the unfunded section,
The unfunded.
which is summaried on page 78.
I'm ready.
And, you know, like I said, there's 2 new projects on here. The rest are all repeats. You know, and I know a couple of the projects on here have been kind of talked about and bandied about the last year or so. And, you know, we did the study, we're not going to do them. So, you know, I mean, I would also like a little clarification from a staff standpoint. Are some of these projects still, do you want to retain them as unfunded projects, or, you know, is the intent to put them to bed forever? And if so, we'll drop them out of here. If you want to keep them on there as projects for future funding, as known projects at such time as funding is available, we'll keep them on there. So still a little direction on a couple of them, and I know there's questions on a couple other ones, so.
Now, the new public works facility for the 7.5 million, is that something that can happen without the completion of the engineering and the study? Because is it phase 1? What are we looking at on that one? No, actually, is that on Central Road? Or
The new public works facility as proposed would be a new location for the 720 North Central facility.
see.
Combining the 720 North Central facility and the water department out of 269 West Irving, knowing that whatever treatment plant expansion begins, there is going to be a elimination of employee areas and elimination of equipment parking, equipment storage, overall spoil space at that facility, combining, leaving the 720 facility, taking a portion of the 269 facility, moving both those together to an undisclosed location.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Alderman Cadella.
I thought that we had that resolved and you were going to be able to retain your public workspace at North Plant with the latest expansion concept.
As of right now, there are some minor changes to the perimeter and parking lot that would eliminate some of those storage options. It'll be tight. We can still maintain where we're at. Again, we're to the point at our public works facility at 720 where we no longer have inside storage. We're looking for outside rented storage for some of our equipment. That's only going to get worse. We currently have no outside spoil bin location. And the salt dome question, though it's been a little bit helped by adding a secondary roof over portions of our salt bin, has really never been answered. So there are some future questions. That's why this sits in unfunded. I've never really pushed this to any large degree other than it is in the back of everyone's mind that we're going to need to combine facilities or find a new location for at least 2 divisions at some point in the future.
John, is the Irving Park Road water main replacement, is that go in tandem with the figure in the redoing of wastewater treatment plant, or is that actually separate? The Irving Park line item for 6.3 million.
It's actually separate. That's the potable drinking water along Irving Park Road from east to west.
How bad is it?
We probably have in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 breaks along that stretch each winter.
And how long do you think it could last before it just reaches the complete end of its life?
The water main is was put in between the 1960s and 1970s. I'll defer to Al on water main ability for it to last. It's going to vary on soil conditions and a few other things. I think we're close to its lifespan now. I'll let him expound upon it.
Okay.
We can again keep fixing breaks, and breaks are a lot cheaper to repair than $6 million is to spend.
Yeah.
But we felt that we needed to at least give you a figure in a planning document that if this is to be replaced, we can go from there. But I'll hand it over to Al.
I'll make this short. There's a long reason why what John was talking about, the condition of the water main. During the 60s and 70s, they constructed water main in a certain fashion where it is now very susceptible for breakage. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this water inventory and finding out exactly what exposure, what risk we have out there with respect to that type of water main that was installed during that period of time. The challenge that we have here is on Irving Park is that it's a health and safety issue. Water mains never break, during business hours. They always break during nighttime, et cetera, where you have high traffic volumes. And so there's a condition of exposure with it within public works staff. There's a cost that's associated with water loss, and all those factors add up together to that it's very expensive every time you have a water main break, and thereby the need to repair this sooner than later, knowing that that whole stretch of pipe is susceptible to possible breakage.
Is there any health implications or from a drinking water perspective from the residents?
Yeah, traditionally when we have a water main break in town, we know about it both via police, citizen, resident calls, low pressure, et cetera. We also have alarm calls that come in from our water supply throughout the city. Their supervisory board that shows us a low pressure situation. At that time, staff responds. They try and isolate the situation. So no, we don't have a health concern in the sense of where there would have to be a boil order that would have to drop below a certain pressure in a large group of the system in order for us to react to that. So in large part, we have the mechanisms in place to respond to that. Again, it's more the isolated inconveniences of those residents that are without water because their section of the main is down, or the area in and around it is affected both by the inconvenience of having the pavement tore up. If you remember last year, this time we had a pretty significant main break on Irving across from Christie's that caused a section of Irving Park Road to buckle. That was closed down for 2 weeks while that was repaired. We had to come in, saw cut out the middle suicide lane. We had to build that up with high early concrete, let that settle, repave it. So there is a cost associated with that each time it happens.
I've never heard suicide lane.
I apologize. The middle fifth
That's great.
turning lane in the center.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna make one more comment and then I'll call on individuals here. This time we do this curtain wall, I believe the 350 is gonna be well spent, and even the way it shades out is kind of quirky with the blinds that come down. I think we talked about that before in the summer and in the winter and how that works. It's not directly related to the curtain wall, I guess, but
Yeah,
it
the
could use some
white,
improvement.
I say the white, I don't know, netting, for lack of a better term, that's in there, was put it, yeah, it can be removed. It was put in there originally to cut down on the solar gain in the hallways during the summer months a number of years ago. It would get up, my understanding from talking to Mr. Forrest and Mr. Noack before that, was it would get up to 90, 95 degrees in the hallways in the summer.
goodness.
And so they put those in there to help filter and keep some of that light out. We have talked about taking them out in the winter to try and warm up the hallways, ironically. But heretofore, we haven't undertaken that yet, though.
Okay. Okay. But aside from that, the curtain wall needs to get done. We've been talking about it for probably 4 years, I think. So just wanted to throw that in there. I'll start to my immediate left and work my way down. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Okay, let's go back to number 9, the water main replacement on Irving Park Road. That ain't for the whole entire Irving Park Road, is it? Or how far is it?
Correct. That is from east to west.
All right. The suggestion that I had on this is and I will be totally honest with you, there has been some major water main breaks out there on Irving Park Road. And it has cost, like that one bucket of road. My suggestion on this one is get with the state and find out when they're going to tear up Irving Park Road, because some of that water main is on Irving Park Road, and some of it is in our right-of-way. What I was asking for this to do, and why this was brought up too, is we were talking about the water main breaks through the town. Irving Park Road is starting to have like 4 or 5 water main breaks a year. And this year there's been several. My question is this: I ain't saying that we do this whole entire project. I think we should do part of it. I don't say do the whole project piecemeal it in, do part of it this year, part of it linger it out for a couple years, then eventually we get it done. Second one, I'll follow up with the curtain wall window. Yeah, we've been talking about that for 3 years right now, or whatever. We've been talking
At
about
least.
treatment plant for 4 years for updates. That's in bad shape than the windows here. The new Public Works building, the only reason why that was put in there is he's trying to have control of all his department heads under one roof. And knowing that the buildings, and I'm not saying fund these projects, but I'm explaining why these was put in there. And the other reason is those trucks at the treatment plant are stored outside all winter. Tell me that those trucks do not take a beating every year that they sit outside. They do. So those are my 3 concerns on these projects. I ain't saying do the whole Irving Park water main, but we really need to start thinking about doing something on Irving Park Road, or else it's going to be to the point that the state is going to make us start redoing all of Irving Park Road, because we keep buckling the road on there, what was the price tag due to Christie's suicide line? What was the bottom line for that? It costs a lot of money for that.
Mr. Kramer?
The entire main break, including overtime, the repair by Martam was approximately $40,000.
But 40,000 compared to 6.3 million, it's a significantly difference.
But if I might add, that also doesn't include water loss. How many gallons that you lost in revenues.
Okay. Next is, I'm going to skip this way, Alderman Shockey.
One thing, John, for the future, I don't know if it's possible, but we've talked for many years since I've been on the council about getting rid of the electrical lines along Irving. I would just like you to check to see if it would be possible to be to have that done at the same time
That's a
as
good
the
question.
water main? Would we save money by doing it then? Would ComEd do it then? I don't know. Just something to look at for the future.
Yeah, it's on the same side. One of the things that we can definitely look into that, as well as alternative funding sources. I know ComEd has some programs that are available that can be implemented as a higher rate, and to pay that off, it's about $1 million a mile to drop those lines in or put them underground. But there are some programs that are out there that will allow you to find some funding for that, and where that cost gets put in. But we'd have to do a little research. It was a program that was available 2 years ago. I don't know if it's still there or not. We'll have to talk to Mr. O'Halloran.
Well, I'm just thinking about if they're digging a hole in the ground, why not run the other pipe as well?
It is smart.
And it doesn't make any difference that it's on the other side of the street, because they can always transfer to the,
Well, obviously, we try to avoid having, electric and water in the same trench, so that should there be subsequent breaks, in future years, you don't want to send your guys down there with electric in the same trench. But if there are some disturbances as far as, roads and moving lanes over and doing those things, yes, it's much more economical to do it at the same time. We'll definitely look at
keep
it
it in mind.
from
Thank
that
you.
perspective.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'd like to have the electric lines added to this unfunded list, because then we won't lose sight of it. And then we can look at the programs, because I didn't know there were programs to do this. Do you know how much better our city would look if these power lines were buried? It would be a significant aesthetic improvement and performance related, I believe, right? It's better to go underground. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot about that.
Good catch on that one. I never thought of it.
Okay, Alderman Coles, do you have anything? You're all good? Okay. I called on you already. Mr. Mayor?
Unburying the electric lines, Addison did that a few years ago along their whole Lake Street corridor. And that was handled by ComEd and passed on. In their case, they passed it on to the residents. I have a question on the Public Works facility. What's the size of your existing facility? What's the size of what you're looking for? And do you know the commercial value of your existing facility, what the offset would be?
No to a large majority of those questions. The current Public Works building is 29,000 square feet. We've looked at buildings in the neighborhood of anywhere between 60 and 110,000 square feet. The largest one being way too large, but we did look at for the possible of asking other taxing bodies if they wanted to be part of it. I would think if we got maybe a building either half to a quarter size larger, so maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50,000 square feet, I think would far, exceed our expectations. The only thing is it would need to have a fair amount of land associated with it, so we could have those spoil, salt, storage, the outside amenities that most commercial buildings in town really don't have.
I think before we make a decision on this, which I don't suspect we're doing this year anyway, but we're going to need to hear from you specifically what your needs are, outside and inside, and the square footage, and get some kind of evaluation of what the value of the existing property is.
Absolutely, we can do the evaluation, and then we could definitely put some square footage and even do some rudimentary design of kind of similar to what we currently have, but expand upon it.
Alderman Police, anything on any of these items? Okay. Alderman Cadalla?
I'm a little concerned about adding much more to this list and making it any longer and putting the total unfunded projects balance higher than the 18.5 million it is, because some of these are nice to have, some of these are necessary, some of these are necessary in the future, some of these are necessary sooner. You know where I'm going with this. I've been pushing for the, for at least some commitment to some date on the 4 streets around Salt Creek. And here we are 4 years after I began the discussion. We still don't have it on a 5-year plan, and that's becoming irritating to me. I understand why and how we got to this point, but I want to, I want to feel better about the process because I don't feel good right now.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, and we knew when we put this in here that it wouldn't be the most popular place for it, at least for two of you. But at the same time, in discussions with Baxter and Woodman, they're needing to go back, I believe, to URS and clarify some of the reports, and they have additional questions that they need to clarify. And so rather than program it in and have to move it or start to jockey it around, once we had, committed to it, we wanted to get Baxter and Woodman and Alan, his guys, on board with what they felt we should do with it, and then solidify the number, and then come back and drop it in. So everybody is acutely aware that that's going to be programmed in the very near future, if not even by the time we come back. But we wanted to have the scope refined, have their questions answered, and know what it is that we're actually going to do out there before we committed to putting it in. So I know it's been frustrating, the process, but rather than further compound the matter by putting it in and then taking it out and moving it around, we were going to hold it out until we were wholly satisfied as staff before committing to what exactly and the number out there. So I don't know if Al was there.
The only thing I might add is that as we read the report and looked into their findings and some suggested recommendations, we're not exactly sure how they came to some of those conclusions, as well as some of the basis or the scope of the work that was proposed or what they were asked to look into. And so that's what we're currently researching and looking into the previous engineers' files to find out the scope of services, exactly why they came to some of those conclusions, because they may or may not resolve the issues that we have right now.
Okay, I understand. I just kind of want to remind everybody that, we've got, what is it, Oakwood and Edgebrook, both with water mains that need to be replaced. The drainage area and problem in the entire area. Forest View's water main is now 42 years old. Not that you're experiencing a lot of problems, but it's got to be nearing the end of its life. Yeah, knock on wood. But and all of it compounded by the fact that the previous engineer approved that major patchwork on Forest View and Harvey which could seriously affect how the street sufficiency study goes. I'm furious. It's one thing after another that isn't going in a forward motion. It's just holding us suspended for who knows how many years. So, there's a lot going on in those 4 streets, and if this number needs to be, divided in half and do 2 at a time to make it palatable and to get it programmed, whatever it's got to be, because it's sitting out there a long time now.
Alderman Roy Wesley, anything? Alderman Lewitton?
Al, on your study of the pipes, and this is in reference to the question that Alderman Winger asked you about Irving Park Road being a 50-year-old pipe, and she had mentioned about health hazard. Is she looking at transites?
Yeah, Roy, what we know of is the pipe that is in question is a ductile iron pipe that was constructed when they made that pipe back in the 60s and 70s. They did not put a concrete liner on the inside of it, which makes it a little bit more susceptible to breaking, and that's what they're looking at. To my knowledge, it is not a transite water main or asbestos water main.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't believe that we're going to need a motion here because there's really no significant changes to this list. Is that correct? Or do you want a motion on the unfunded projects? Yeah, I don't think we're funding them. Mr. Wilson?
Just the question, that Will had, I think, when we started, is, are they all staying on the list?
I believe they are, and we're adding the electric lines. and I'd like to see the exterior wall go on the funded side.
Couple
Figure it out.
projects that, that have been through committees and subcommittees and had attorneys' letters written on them and such. And I mean, are they still possibly going
mean.
to be done in the future, or are they officially dead?
Like the third line item?
Correct. And the first one and the fourth one.
Okay, let's see. So first, third, and fourth?
Right, we just, you
No, I
know,
understand. No, it's a good question. Good question. Any,
What you got? One?
okay, so the first line items,
Yeah.
third and fourth, the question is, do we leave them on a list, on this list?
I see leaving on a list until the, I'm sorry.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
I say leave it on the list until we see what the budget is. I mean, obviously, if the budget's not there, they all gone. Or we start funding some of this partway. I mean, I just, until we see where we need to appropriate some, and I agree, some of these projects has been pushed back, and I just don't know where that budget's going to be. That's where the funding's going to come right now.
But to Mr. Wilson's point, even if we had the funding, there may very well be a compelling reason not to do the project. So can we take off anything here? Like the third one? Alderman Police.
Basically, these are all the drainage improvement studies that we did the studies. So if we're just gonna take these off, we're basically making a decision, and when residents come up,
Not to go back and visit.
we're not gonna do any more drainage studies, just to so they feel good about that night. And then when the study's done, sorry. What are we doing? We just spent 200,000 and we're not even gonna consider them anymore. So we got that macro study for 300,000. We might get the money for that, but we're not gonna do anything with it. So why do the study? Forget it. People have problems. You know, in the book here, right at the beginning,
Yeah, that's easier.
Leave it all on.
you know,
See where the budget.
where is it? Page 1, maintain and improve storm and wastewater collection, conveyance, and systems management, preserve land values and other desirable characteristics. So if we're not gonna do any of the flooding issues, I guess flooding is now desirable in Wooddale. Is that what we're saying? No problem. That's what you guys want.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment, then I'm going to call on Mr. Kramer, then Alderman Shockey. Like the first one, South Cedar. I think we concluded this is more of a buyout issue because there's some problems we're not going to be able to fix, if I remember correctly. And wouldn't that defer to the buyout process? Mr. Kramer, Mr. Murmas, your thoughts on that question?
The South Cedar issue, Mayor, am I allowed to talk about that?
This probably should be but more properly executive session if we're going to specifically talk about buyout.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what? Okay, hey, Mr. Kramer.
Just in comment of Alderman Police, I myself would like to include several drainage studies around the city. I held off on doing that this year in order to do the macro study. I don't think anyone at this table is saying that we want to eliminate any additional studies or not look at any residents' issues in relationship to flooding, whether it be 1 or 50 or 250. I don't think that's the intent. The intent is to look at it at a macro level next before we do any of these point studies, because obviously we did 3-point studies and we're really not at a finite solution for any for either of those 3 items.
Alderman Shockey.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that when we do studies like this, we're not doing engineering studies. How to fix it specifically, I think what we're doing is determining what the cost-benefit ratio is. And if it's going to take $230,000 to correct the flooding of one or two homes and have the rest of the city have to pay for that, I'm not sure if we can do that type of thing. The idea of the study is to find out what could be done and how much it would cost to do. And then we make a determination, well, yes, we do it, or no, we don't do it. We can't just do studies and automatically go ahead and do whatever the result of the study is. We have to determine that after the study's done. Thank you.
Alderman Cadella.
With regards to South Cedar, there was an engineering component to this too. It wasn't just about land. But I also thought I remember that as being not a guarantee that we can actually fix the problem. It would make it better, maybe fix it, but I don't think we had anything to a level where it was guaranteed that it was going to be okay, because that area is in a basin and we were going to have to increase the storm sewer somewhere else to be able to take that water out of there. It wasn't just a matter of holding it, but there was an engineering component, so it wasn't just land ac. So that one I'm not sure I ever felt that it was presented to me in such a way that, yeah, this, whatever this is, this 550,000 is absolutely going to fix it. I don't know that I ever got that warm fuzzy. Windsor Catalpa, I think I did get the warm fuzzy that we probably would be able to get the water off the street, but at what cost, and are we going to cause problems anywhere else? I don't think that one was taken to the next level to be able to move forward. And North Cedar, I kind of thought we shot that thing down in its entirety, to be honest with you. I was kind of surprised to see it was still here, but I may be remembering it wrong. So I think there's varying degrees of ability to fix problems with what we've been presented with so far. I'm not saying to necessarily take any of them off, but I'm not convinced that everything here is a be-all end-all fix either.
I'm sensing the sentiment is to leave these on. And so let's leave them on and add the electric lines. And do you need a motion on that? If you'd like, when it's fairly easy.
I mean, we know the direction to go to add them. And I'll have to get from Mr. Kramer or Mr. Stefan how many miles it is that we're looking to do so we can get a rough cost estimate. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we have direction to go ahead and add that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other sections that you'd like to discuss? Wait, before you answer, I'm sorry. Alderman Lewitton, is it regarding this list? Alderman Lewitton?
It's my understanding that we do have a list of all the transite pipes. Could you have a list of what it would cost to remove all of them or line them? Just as a line item, not that we would vote on it, say yes, just as since we're creating a wish list, just let's know what the price is.
Yes, as part of the water model study, we will have that as part of the database. We'll be able to easily pull that together and give you an estimated cost, so that we can discuss that in the future here.
Just two things. One, just the informational item. The last two pages, pages 88 and 89, are a historical listing of the projects we completed or projecting to complete the last two fiscal years. Just for point of reference, so if anybody asks, what did
thank
we
you.
get for our money, or how many projects did we do? Those are listed there with an aggregate total for each of those 2 years. And short of that, I know we did each section, but if it's appropriate just to do a master summary accepting the 4 sections on their own so that we can roll that into the resolution for next week, with obviously the few caveats that were put into a couple of the sections.
So a master motion now, correct? Can you phrase it? And then I'll make the motion. That's my motion. Is there a second? Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There isn't an opposition? No? Okay. Motion carries. And The next item on my agenda, I believe, is, thank you. Did you take my agenda? Items to be considered at future meetings, the CNG grant, is that the, okay, that's the bridge. getting confused on
Compressed
CNG.
natural gas for our vehicles.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, good. Water rates for February, health insurance renewal process, I believe, right? Policy? Health insurance renewal policy? See?
No, as a function of being in IPBC, the cooperative that we get our health, the pool that we get our health insurance through, we're required every 3 years to renew with them. And so it's the process of passing the resolution to renew for another 3 years with IPBC. There will be a representative from Gallagher Bassett Service who provides, who oversees the pool, will be here to help us, as well as a memo explaining the benefits of being in the pool, and some other things. So that's February 24th.
Thank you. Item D, AM audit presentation. Item E, fiscal year 2012 budget. So is that the next time we're going to talk about the budget then, is in March 10th?
Will be the entire budget.
Okay.
General fund, all the special revenue fund, you know, the big 300-page thing in the binder I
Sure.
give you, yeah.
Okay. Grade separation referendum, community outreach strategy. And then are there any other items for discussion? Mr. Mayor?
Well, on the same subject of the referendum, are we going to do some kind of outreach regarding this bulk sale of electric or bulk purchase to explain to the residents what that is?
Yeah, we can do that as well. Do you also
Both out
want to
together?
you want to lump those together? I mean, it'd be the same avenues, just different verbiages and wordings on those things. Yeah, okay.
Any other items for future meetings? I make a motion to adjourn. Is there
I'll move.
a do a
No,
question?
it's just a suggestion.
Okay, Alderman Roy Wesley.
As you could call me crazy for saying this too. We had Al Stefan here, and we have Anthony here. Anthony's getting paid just as well here. I like to see Anthony give more of a presentation if he is your assistant, and I understand that he's training, but I like to see Anthony get some speaking time into this council too, so he could learn. He's going to make mistakes, but if he's here to learn, let's put him on to see how he does.
Okay, well, he's starting to.
But I haven't-
Maybe
he's-
not tonight, but other nights. he
Right,
is.
but he's only gave 1 or 2 presentations since he's been here,
Okay.
so I like to see more.
Okay, let's hear what Mr. Murmas has to
And
say.
the city manager's office and the finance director will definitely have Anthony participate in any presentations when we feel it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's their prerogative. That's their area.
Well, then I would like a list of salaries that's being spent then.
Of salaries?
Not on the what we're spending here.
Oh, to have the meeting?
Yeah, not for how much are we paying for Anthony to be here? How much are we paying for Al Stefan to be here?
Well, I think we need Mr. Stefan for sure.
I understand that.
And
All
I
I'm
think the
saying is I'd
exposure's
like to
good.
see him do more of a presentation. If we're paying for it, we should get something for it. That's it.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Call the Public Works meeting in order. All people are still present. Any motion to approve the minutes December 9th, 2010. I have a motion. I have a second. Any changes? All in favor? Aye. I'm going to approve item 4 and 6, pay request. Number 4 was a budget item to install amount of $83,745, and that was for the what was that for? And I'm also requesting pay request number 6 Item number 6, pay request number 4 for $35,388.37. That is my motion. Do I have a second on that motion? Second. All in favor? Questions? No. I am asking that, I am going to ask that item number 5 be taken off the agenda until the next committee meeting to discuss the contract extension for the Irving Park ornamented lighting, for we could know what the dollar amount is actually before that gets awarded. Because there was a long discussion, so that will be, item that will be taken off the agenda. Mayor Johnson.
On item 5, is there an architectural drawing what this is going to look like? So I didn't get, was that distributed, apparently, because I know I didn't get it.
I don't think we have. Yes.
Oh, by all means. Go ahead. Go ahead. Put it on the screen. While that is being done, I will discuss items in future meetings. Replacement of silver maple tree in the Parkway, February. Illegal sanitation sewer line connection, February. Discussion citywide drainage solution, soil in Filden, February 24th. And the other item that has been changed on the agenda for future meeting is the wastewater treatment plant decision will be pushed back to February 24th. I'm not asking for adjournment yet until we look at this sketch. Okay.
What?
This is
That's
this
a
is my
$300,000 project.
this is this is my sketch on a cocktail napkin. Actually, it's a little hard to tell, but no, this really truly is a first preliminary design. What you have up in this corner are both the lights on either side. This is if you're driving east to west. Oh, you can't see my. I'm a little untrained in this, but my finger here indicates the difference between the two railings. So if you were driving down Irving Park Road, this is one pedestrian railing, 2 pedestrian railings. This over here is the existing concrete guardrail that's in place with the metal railing. Outside of that are the lights, prairie style lights, with the top similar to the ones that are on Wooddale Road and the pedestrian bridge. Those 2 pedestrian railings will look like the bike bridge railings. And I have those details too. Unfortunately, they're probably not going to show up the greatest on here.
Nice.
Okay. And those are the railings that would be the pedestrian railings on either side of the driving lanes.
Okay, yep.
The question is how many lights? And I believe it's 4 on the side, so 8 lights.
So do I have to do anything with that taking off the agenda on number 5, Mayor?
And that
That's
shows
what I
a
did.
little better.
I made, okay, John, that's beautiful. I will make, I will make a motion to table item number 5 in the next committee meeting. All in favor? Aye. Oh, is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
This comes back